Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It is November 8th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And really, we just had a range day today. This is how I started this off. But once we went lower here, a measured move is down here. This blue line is a measured move. So really, all you needed to do was drag that down. And then you can clearly see the midline was what looked like the original range, and that we pretty much had a range day. We had a little failed break lower here uh, around lunchtime, got back in the range and continued to, we actually uh, are trading inside that now. It looks like we may close in that side. You can see the market's really died off now. So it's after 3 o'clock. So generally not much happens after this point. We could drop on down, but we're back, as of now, we're back in the range and the last support held. So that's the way I saw it today. There's a couple of ranges in here. I played this channel, but you might have been better off just to play the short-term stuff. This channel doesn't help you a whole lot. I think it's valid, but you can see you probably were better off to trade these other trends in here. However you saw it. If you saw it, the bigger two-tiered one, I think it's valid. So then you get a break, move to a new low, and then we got back inside the range, went back, tested the midline. In my opinion, what prices were attempting to do on this sell-off, notice this yellow line is where prices opened at 8:30, and so that left a little bit of a gap. Actually, it didn't leave a gap on the chart, but it left a gap from where we closed Friday. So from there to there, and that's what I think prices were doing. They were trying to go back and test that close from Friday. Uh, that's a pretty common thing for prices to do. So I believe they were trying to retest those lows or those close from Friday. And you said we got real close, but they just couldn't. A lot of buying came back in at that same spot, and prices are still trying to go lower. Uh, I mean, we've been very overbought on the daily chart, and we're probably way past time for a correction. I haven't looked at the daily chart today. Let's just open it and look at it real quick. Okay, here's a look at that daily chart. Uh, if we get a measured move similar to that first leg up, I mean that puts us up here at 4,800, 4,814 or so. Can we go that high? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You can clearly see that we're finding resistance off that brown band here, which is once you hit that, you're severely overbought. But I mean, I guess you could always say that's the midline, and maybe we end up reaching this, and this is a two-tiered channel, and that's just the first. I mean, it's hard to say at this point. We just really got to kind of let this continue to play out, but it's obvious this was an inside day. You can see it right there. Uh, Inside day on, that was Friday's bar. This is today's bar. So we'll see where it goes, but that's what we're looking at, and I don't see any sign that this thing is. I mean, it's slowing down, obviously, but I don't see anything that says, "Hey, we're fixing to turn over and sell off now." I mean, it could happen tomorrow, but I don't see any signal telling me that. So, in fact, notice this. This is pretty interesting because here's a new low, and you get a first entry and then a second entry. Well, that's a failed second entry short on a daily chart, and look at that big move. So this stuff even works on daily level, so just be aware of that. But let's go back to the 2000 tick chart and go through the trade. Okay, here we are back at the 2000 tick chart. Clearly a range day. You can see that. You can see prices were playing both sides of that midline right across there. We did have a little failed break lower a couple of times. Notice we bounced again off that low. Will we go higher from there? Who knows? It's probably not much going to happen this late in the day, so probably be sometime during the overnight before prices will start moving again. But generally, again, I believe prices were trying to come back and test that, feel that what I call a gap. It's not really a gap, but it's just where prices close Friday, and then a lot of times when you get these big overnight moves, prices want to come back during regular hours and test those areas. So That's what I think was going on there. We didn't quite make it before we bounced. A lot of buying coming back in at this 48, 46, 80 area, 46.85 area. You can see that. But let's zoom in and let's go through the trades and wrap this day up. Clearly we were in an uptrend. We were going sideways. We just really, when you see this can be a mixed bag here because it's obviously sideways and congestion. But when you got a clear trend and when you get a correction, it can't really come back. It just has to go sideways to get to the other side. That generally is showing strength. And so when you get this setup here, notice you really get, you made a low, you really had a double test here, so you might have entered there. But when we made this higher low and still closed inside the trend, I like that one better because you get a clear triple test with 3 bounces there. But you might have even entered here. The problem is this one is at 7:01, so this was before 7 o'clock, and that's the main reason I didn't mark it. But if you were trading then and you wanted to trade, you might take that trade. I generally don't like to trade before. I think 6:30 prices start to move, but definitely by 7 o'clock you can safely trade. So that's kind of my start point is 7 o'clock. But you know, if you were here, you could take that trade. It's right off the key entry point. It is a triple test. It is a nice bullish bar. This one's a little higher low, and it is at 7 o'clock, 7:01 or something like that. I can't remember what time this bar opened it. Yeah, shoot. 7:01. So there you go. But that was a night. If you catch that trade, that's all you need today. And it actually comes back and gives you a second entry here. It's a real low risk bar. It's only 4 ticks, but it's an inside bar, and we're not quite back to the EMA. But you can see when you see prices gap like that, notice there's no overlap that closes, opens. There's generally a good sign that there's a trend line there. And so that tells you that trend line, I mean, it's really obvious already that this is a good trend line, but that just further confirms it. You'll see that from time to time, so pay attention to that because it usually happens at areas where there's a trend line or some kind of support resistance coming through it. Don't ask me why it happens. They call them thin spots. There's not a lot of trades right there, and I don't understand what really causes them. It doesn't really matter. I just know that they're there. And if you see one, there's generally some kind of support or resistance coming through that area. And that's all that really matters. So, but there is a second entry there. If you took that, I wouldn't beat you up, but it's those inside bars can be iffy. But this is a pretty strong trend. So no surprise that we went higher there, but it's still kind of risky. And we finally made a new high, and then obviously then we have this big sell-off, and you make a new low, then you get a first entry and a second entry. I was a little hesitant to go short on that second entry right there because it's so close to that low. But when you get a failed second entry long, and really that looks like a double bottom, and so you could still count that as a second entry because of the trap. When it breaks higher with that bullish bar, they probably got people trapped. So I like that one, and that was a real quickie. This thing was struggling to go lower, and all of a sudden, I guess when they broke it lower, it just dropped like a rocket, and then it bounced instantly. So it was a quick, easy move, and no run or anything like that. But that was a nice trade right there, real quick one. Then we come back, no setup here. You try to go higher once, twice, so you got another failure right there. I like that one. It's just a first entry, but because it's a failed second entry long, if you want to take that one, you can. Another quick move. And then it looks like we're just kind of going sideways. There's a little bit of a, you wouldn't want to have entered any more after that because of that little sideways stuff right there. And there is a failed, well, technically it didn't break lower, but notice we try to go lower once, twice, and we break out here and come back and test that. If that would have broken lower, that would have been a great place for a failure to try to ride this back up, but it didn't, and so I didn't mark it. But I still kind of like that setup when it broke higher right there. And then we just kind of meandering along here, and it sells off. You don't really get a chance to go short here. Runs back down, bounces, and it does turn back down on the second entry right here. You might have taken this trade. I didn't mark it because it's, notice how you got this big bar, and then that one's inside, that one's inside, no body. That's congestion, plus you got a trend line working up. It works, but I think you're better off to wait on the lower high, which comes here, and then it's congested again, and there's a chance it could trap you and go try to make a new high, which it does. But this still would have worked. I mean, that's a really bearish bar on a lower high, and we just came off the trend line and confirmed it. So you might take that, but I tell you, I would wait. See if you get a failure, which you do here, and it actually breaks higher first and turns down. So it's probably going to trap some people. You could have gone short right there, but generally I'd wait on this bar to close. Since it's a trap, the trap really occurs there. So you might take that one on an engulfing bar. Generally, I'd tell you to wait for this to close and make sure you get a good signal bar, which it's not a good signal bar, but it's a trap. And so it doesn't matter, and the entry was one tick below that bar. So that's how I would probably enter that. It didn't matter if you waited till here, but after I saw that, I probably wouldn't enter this if I didn't enter on an engulfing bar. So just something to think about. Drops on down real quickly, and we bounce again. We still haven't got to the measured move yet. We do come back and get a close outside this time. There's another second entry. It's very similar to this one. It's a first close outside, so you may try to go higher again. Again, you might take that one, but I would wait. And again, you get your lower high right here. And that's a big bearish bar. And then there's a failure here back inside the trend line. Another big bearish bar. I like entering there too. It's getting close to these lows, but that's probably going to trap some people. And you can see it. It finally moves on down, and not only does it go down, it goes a little further. And you do get a close outside of that trend and a new low, and then a higher low here with a nice signal bar. You would expect that prices are going to fail on this breakout, although I would look for prices to come here, but being that far away from the EMA, I like taking that just to ride it back, just to try to get a scalp. You probably don't, and you may catch a low and it may take off, so you might even try to hold a runner there, but when it starts going sideways here, I'd exit that. Then, of course, it just kind of chops around. Stay out of that right there. If you didn't enter on the short, I'm sorry, if you weren't on the long, I wouldn't enter any shorts here. I just think it's too risky there. You do get a little failed break lower here with a higher low, and it is a second entry long, but I think you'd be better off to wait on the higher low just to make sure we're not going to drop down here. And of course, we do push back through the EMA and pull back. I like going long right there. And it continues higher, but you just don't get another setup until here. Notice you get your first break, and then you get a first entry long, and then a second entry long. I like that entry. There's actually a failure there, but it's not really where you're looking for a failure. So I wouldn't take that trade. And then, of course, we make that high. We test it once, twice. You might have gone short right there, but that looks a little congested. There's another one of those big bars. You got a couple of no body ones inside it, and that one's still inside. But we come back and test it again, and look how bearish that is. And that's it. And now you got, for sure, you got a triple test. You really got a quadruple test there. I like going short on that one. If you could get in it, because it dropped really fast. If you could get in it, go short right there. And that did it for the day. So, again, just a range day. It looked like we were going higher, but they quickly brought this back to the reset from Friday, or tried to. Got real close, and really most of the day was over by then. We didn't have a whole lot of price action after that. So there's still some trades in there, but just wasn't a lot of movement after that. So market got a little quiet. But several good shorts here. That would have been some nice moves. And there's even a couple of good longs here, really. I mean, if you catch this first trade of the day, you don't need anything else. I mean, if you catch that trade and you just go till you get the first break below, there's your 9 points right there on just a single contract. That's the kind of runners and trades you want to catch a runner on. So you don't get a lot of those, but when you get them, they're great trades. And this is the kind of place you will see them. So we're down here on a failed breakout. I mean, if you caught that one right there, I didn't mark it. I talked about it. It's a second entry. If you took that trade right there, treating this like a failed breakout, the only thing that scared me away from it was I really thought prices were going to come down and reset off this close. And I'm confident that's what the goal was, but they just couldn't get it down there. The buyers were too eager. And again, you're a little ways away from the EMA. It's a second entry long. It's a decent signal bar. It's a failed breakout. It's a triple test that I didn't even mention that. The more I look at that, the more I like that trade. In real time, my problem with it was I was sitting here thinking, we're coming down to test this. And so that's why it's not a good idea to think you know. I mean, it's pretty obvious this was our target, but we don't always make our target. So just because we think we're going to, and we've already had a break and a new low, and now we got a triple test, there's reasons to go higher here. And a lot of times when you catch these failed breakouts, they turn out to be important lows. And this one would have, because again, you would have caught a runner. And let's just say you ride that back to the midpoint. There's another 9 points. 2 trades that would have given you 9 points. And those are both the kind of places you look for those kind of setups. So just something to think about. Anyway, that's what I saw today. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap this one up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Hope you had a good trading day. Hope you had a great weekend. The weather was great here. We got that fall weather where we're in between summer and winter, and it gets kind of chilly at night down in the 30s, but in the daytime it's 65, 70 degrees. Been no clouds in the sky, very low humidity. It's been great weather here. So I hope you're having some where you're at. I hope your trading's going well, and we'll be back again tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll